Padhar is a tiny place in the middle of nowhere. It's 800 miles south of Delhi in the state of Madhya Pradesh, the largest uninhabited part of India. The nearest place with a name you'll likely know is Bhopal, and that's 100 miles nearer to civilization. For a tour of the mission hospital and its outreach work. To get this far, you've already come a long way. The long flight to Delhi gets in the small hours, allowing time for a brief rest before an overnight train ride southwards the next night. This has brought you within about 12 miles of Padhar, and now you're approaching the hospital along the national highway through the centre of India. One thing the traveller soon realises is that India is a land of contrasts, between rich and poor, between old and new, and between east and west. The visitor to Padhar Hospital is in for another set of contrasts, for although it's in the middle of nowhere, it's a 350-bed hospital capable of everything from dressing a simple wound to the most sophisticated of modern surgery.
उसमें पाया जाऊं, ना कि अपनी उस धार्मिकता के साथ जो व्यवस्था से है, वरन उस धार्मिकता के साथ.
At the beginning of every working day, the outpatients' hall is converted into a chapel for a brief service for as many of the hospital staff that can attend. During this time, the outpatients start to arrive. They come from a huge area with a radius of about 500 kilometers. A circle that size centred on Cambridge would easily include Liverpool and Manchester. Granted, there are other hospitals in this area, but they tend to serve the city folk and those with money, or to offer a narrow range of services. For villagers, Padhar offers the only real hope of hospital treatment, and about 130 patients a day come to the outpatient department. When we were making this video, our schedule coincided with a visit from Richard Villa, a consultant orthopaedic surgeon from Cambridge. He not only took outpatient clinics, but also carried out a large number of operations during his 2-week stay. When the word goes round that Dr. Richard is coming, the patients pour in, and a very busy time is had by all, both in outpatients and in surgery. Commonly seen by the orthopaedic surgeons at Padhar are the ravages of polio, TB and leprosy, and many of the operations are to bring relief to patients suffering from these conditions. The resident orthopaedic surgeon at Padhar is Dr. Vincent Solomon. He's also the medical director of the hospital. Dr. Solomon is also a very competent surgeon in his own right and performs advanced hip and knee replacements, as well as dealing with the conditions already mentioned. Next door to the orthopaedic outpatients is the office of Mr. Babru, the dental surgeon. Mr. Babru provides a full dental service, as well as making prosthetics for cancer patients. Cancer of the mouth is a common condition, probably brought about by the chewing of tobacco.
This is also one partial denture. Just I am making a partial denture here. Some teeth are missing, upper teeth also missing. I will make a upper complete denture and lower partial denture.
Yes.
Now I am doing this, preparing this jacket crown. Here we are preparing in the wax first First I prepared in the wax and I will carve with the hand, and after that we'll change this in another acrylic material. And this...
Although you recognize all the items in the dental surgery, most of them are over 25 years old and in desperate need of replacement.
The edentulous mouth. This patient has no teeth. So this patient came here from 300 kilometers from here, and I prepared his complete denture. आप खुश हो? जोर से बोलो हम खुश हैं.
खुश हैं.
He is saying I am happy.
Jolly good.
Another busy outpatient department is obstetrics and gynecology. Only the potentially complicated ones. Most take place in the villages.
3 days old.
3 days old. And how long will she stay here?
If she has stitches, she'll be here 6 days.
Right.
If she has no stitches, we send them off second day.
Right. You live in Padhar?
कहाँ रहते हैं आप?
In Sarni.
Sarni, it's about 30 kilometers from
30
here.
kilometers. It's a long way to come down.
Yes. We have more of first delivery.
One of the common tests in hospital that almost everyone has experienced is having an X-ray. At Padhar, they have an X-ray department too. Despite the apparent age and decrepitude of the equipment, many dozens of X-rays are taken every day for all the specialities in the hospital. They're processed in deep tanks in a small darkroom behind the X-ray room, with an expertise that almost seems casual, but which actually results in radiographs of excellent quality. Every morning, after devotions, the medical staff of Padhar meet together to look at all the X-rays taken the previous day. This is the opportunity to discuss the best treatment, or perhaps to decide on an operation. To a European, the first impression of the operating theatre and surgery carried out at Padhar is one of amazement. That operations of such complexity can be successfully performed in such basic conditions would seem impossible, but they are. And this is due in no small measure to the dedication of all the staff, the great care they give to their work of the bone setter's failures. But on the day of our visit, he lives about 40 miles from Padhar, we were fortunate enough to see him treat a patient with a fractured collarbone. In this case, his treatment took the form of a sort of poultice of ground-up root mixed with oil, which the bone setter claims can knit the broken bones in 2.5 hours, though in this particular case it would take 10 hours for his bone to set because it was an old fracture. However, with sympathetic treatment, this gentleman would get better anyway, so the fame of the bone setter will continue to spread. At first glance, what's going on here might well be more tribal medicine, but in fact you'd be wrong. They give drinking water to hundreds of villages in the area. Without these deep bore wells, surface water has to be used for everything and consequently carries a great deal of infection. But now, almost everywhere you look, there is a tube well and a great deal less dysentery and similar infections. These women, hard at work repairing one of the tube wells, are actually taking part in another of Padhar's projects. There's a whole range of women's educational activities that take place in the villages, ranging from the mechanical work of maintaining the well pumps, through nutrition and cookery classes, to dressmaking, spice grinding, and even paper bag making. All these activities are designed to let the women become more self-sufficient and to help them earn a little money by selling their produce. For example, the paper bags are sold to shopkeepers in the nearby town of Betul. And although none of these women will ever become rich through their labours, they do earn a few rupees that they would never get in any other way. The spice ladies grind spices like turmeric, garam masala and chilies, first by hand, and then through finer and finer mills, and then pack them for sale locally. Some of them even end up back in the hospital on a stall in the outpatients department. The men aren't left out either. Programs for them are mainly in the agricultural and horticultural areas. This is the milking shed in the model farm where villagers come to learn about livestock handling. On this farm, there are also orchards of pawpaws, coconuts and mangoes, as this is a research area as well as a teaching one. Another of their developments is this watering system for the fruit trees, using buried pottery jars to act as slow-release reservoirs for the water. There are also two bank schemes, a seed bank and a goat bank. Under these schemes, the villagers are lent a starting stock for a year and are expected to return the starting stock with interest in kind so that the banks have more to lend next year. This villager standing proudly by his field of maize and this man's crop of tomatoes were made possible by a loan from the seed bank. Everyone works in the fields, with the women and children helping with seed sowing and weeding, in this case in a field of aubergine plants also grown from seed bank stock. Getting around in India isn't always that easy, especially after the rains, which can wash away whole stretches of the tracks. The drivers from Padhar are very skillful at nursing their aged Land Rovers over the most difficult of terrain to get the mission workers out to the villages. This session is a health clinic held in a village only a few miles from Padhar itself, but typical of the clinics held all over the catchment area. Pre- and postnatal checks, baby health care and vaccinations are all a part of the routine. The nurses who run these clinics also advise on sanitation and arrange for hygienic earth closets to be dug at an appropriate distance from the living quarters. Men from the mission come out to do the work. On the way back from this particular clinic, the nurses call at a village school to check the children's weight, height and eyesight. Regular checkups like this help the mission staff make sure that the children are getting enough nutrition and catch any illness at an early stage. Schools and education in general are very important to the folk at Padhar, and school teachers are provided for several villages. At this school for young children, the classes largely concern reading, writing and basic number skills. The formal classes are all mixed up with games and singing, just as in an English primary school. And every day there's time for a snack. This is basically a meal of soya flour, which is both tasty and nutritious. Life in rural India revolves very much around the sun. You tend to get up with the dawn and go to bed at dusk, for not many places have a lot of electricity. But here we're off to a village with just enough electricity to run a night school, where older children and adults can catch up with their basic education. Even so, there was so little light, we had to film with the aid of our Land Rover headlights. Another project that's run from Padhar is one designed to promote an improvement in the social status of women in the outlying tribal villages, with the ultimate objective of creating an awareness amongst them with regard to their health and education. This is done through discussion meetings and group workshops, where there are demonstrations on how to make such things as soap for washing clothes, candles to light their homes, as well as learn the values of food and proper nutrition. Role play and puppet shows are used as aids to teaching. Another important project, which is situated just outside Padhar, is the School for the Blind. This is a residential centre with about 50 places for children and young adults. Apart from teaching them to get around safely and how to read Braille, the school also offers a basic education of Hindi, maths and English. The aim of the rehabilitation centre at the school is to give the children a certain amount of independence by teaching them a skill by which they might earn a living rather than be a burden to their family or their village. But let us now return to where we started, to Padhar Hospital itself. There is so much more that could be shown of the work done here, but there isn't the time to show it all, so instead we'll leave you with a montage of visual impressions accompanied by music performed by the children from the blind school. Form of first-hand advice from experts and specialists, not only in the field of surgery, but also in areas such as pathology and radiography, which will help them maintain their already high standards of patient. If you would like to help Padhar Hospital and its outreach